Hey, I'm Oscar Harvey, and I'm here with the prosecution for the case of Hickock and Smith versus Kansas State.
Session is now begun.
Yes.
Charge R, Dick and Perry are both charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. Okay, and now the prosecutions are
Opening statements.
opening statements.
Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Jack McDonald. Alongside me is Edward Clifton, Oscar Harvey, and Earl Boyd, representing the prosecution in this case. We will prove to the state and defense that Hickock and Smith are the murderers of the Clutter family. The facts of this case are straightforward. The evidence will show that on the morning of November 15, 1959, Perry Smith and Richard Hickock broke into the Clutter home and murdered 4 members of the family. Under Kansas law, there are 2 elements we must prove. First, we must prove that Smith and Hickock were sane during the execution of this crime. Second, we must prove that Smith and Hickock were the ones to complete this heinous crime. We will call 4 witnesses: Nancy Ewald, Susan Kidwell, both friends of the victim, Nancy Clutter, Dr. W. Mitchell Jones, Dick and Perry psychologist at Kansas State Penitentiary, and Barbara Johnson, the sister of Mr. Smith. Nancy and Susan will tell you that what they saw the morning they came to get Nancy Clutter for church and how they were traumatized from what they saw. Next, Dr. W. Mitchell Jones will tell you the disorders that Richard and Perry had and how they influenced their psyche. Lastly, Barbara Johnson will explain the elements of her and Richard's childhood and how he decided to go down this path when he could have been very successful. This is a criminal case, and us as prosecution must prove our case by a preponderance of the evidence. For the reasons stated above, after you have heard all of the evidence, at the end of this trial we ask for a verdict such as the death penalty leading to execution for both Mr. Smith and Mr. Hickock.
We will be proving, in this case of Hickock and Smith versus Kansas, the beneficial factors of further studies in terms of rehabilitation and psychological advancement in terms of technologies, and helping the American people to further understand these questions. The importance of keeping Perry alive would be beneficial to further investigation towards his psyche and the psyches of others who have been in like situations as him. We would like to ask him to be studied for psychological purposes, and for Richard to prove Richard as a common criminal who can be rehabilitated back into society and given time and rehabilitation, including jail time.
The direct examination of the prosecution's witnesses.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones. So, Dr. Jones, while studying Richard and Perry in the jail, what have you found out about them?
This can be defined as someone who is not motivated and is not active and lack of initiative, which all happens with absolute no delusional spell.
On your professional level, what are your thoughts on Richard Hickock and Perry Smith and their disorders and how these may have affected them?
Looking through the eyes of a professional, there is no explanation for the wrongdoing, so it's simply the decision made from not 1 but 2 people of sound mind.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask? I'm sorry, not that I'm down.
The defense, if you can cross-examine Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones.
Dr. Jones, is it possible in your area of expertise here that Perry Smith could have been going through a schizophrenic episode during the time of the robbery?
On my professional opinion, Perry Smith was in perfect sound mind when the crime was committed.
There are many different types of hallucinations that people can go through at the same time. And if you've proven that this man does in fact have schizophrenia, how do we know that he wasn't seeing anything during the time? Perry Smith is known to be a good liar and a manipulator. So we can never really know what's going on in his mind. But we know that he isn't the one in his own mind.
He suffers from schizophrenia, yes, but it is Simple. So there is no delusion of spells at all.
And this can be proven?
It can. The brain does not lie. The person might, but the brain does not.
Okay.
I'd like to call up Nancy Ewald to the stand.
You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So, Nancy Nancy Ewald, sorry. What kind of relationship would you say you had with the Clutter family, specifically Nancy?
She was my best friend. They took me to church every Sunday. I would consider myself very close with them.
Okay. When you showed up to the Clutter household, what did you do? What happened?
Well, first I looked around, saw that their cars were still there, so I went and I called one of my friends. I was like, hey, what's going on?
Alrighty. And I have a deep understanding that Nancy was a great effect, but were you also affected by seeing the rest of the family in the state they were in?
Yes, it was horrendous. What I saw.
So, Nancy, do you think that a person who would commit these kind of crimes would be safe? Objection? Is that not a leading question, a yes or no?
Sustained. That was leading. So rephrase. Please rephrase.
What kind of person do you think would commit these kind of crimes?
Someone of not sane mind. Someone who is insane. Someone who's crazy.
Can you speak a bit louder, please?
Someone who is not of sane mind. Someone who is crazy. Maybe a little bit bonkers.
Okay. That's all we'd like to ask.
He was a good kid.
Within the later of his life, did you notice any change within Richard Hickock?
After his accident, he was not the same boy that I raised.
That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so, would you say that this boy was mentally unstable, or was he more just a kid who took the wrong path?
I would say that my boy was just running with the wrong crowd at the time.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
He's nervous, but like Hunter and Leland seem very confident in their face. So I feel like that's notable. Is there any like things that the witnesses said that you guys took specific note of?
When Perry's sister said that he was like
Yeah. Over there.
The trial is now in session. So please stand up for the counsel that will examine the witnesses. Or the witness.
What is your relationship
Hold
to
on,
Perry?
hold on.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, only the truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
You may proceed.
What is your relationship to Perry Smith?
My relationship to Perry was I knew him the whole time I was in jail.
In the short amount of time that you have knew him, did you notice any strange behavior or anything off about his personality?
I noticed something off with him, but I always thought highly of him. He was only in there for a minor charge, but I just helped him through as much as I could.
In your friendly opinion, do you believe that our client, Mr. Smith, has always been in the right state of mind?
Objection. He does not have the right credentials in order to dictate whether he was in the right state of mind or not. Sustained.
The whole time I was in jail, I was with Perry.
And how long may that have been?
For just a few years, not that many.
And how would you describe yours and Perry's relationship?
He was good. He was a good kid when we shared a cell. He was always drawing and he talked a fair bit, but he was always nice and never quite talked down about it.
Through your time getting to know Mr. Smith, how would you describe him as an individual?
All the hardships in his life, they did affect him, but he was always, when he was there, he was generally just a calm person to be around.
That's everything, thank you.
How did your relationship with Perry start?
Since I'm his father, it started when he was born, and I would say I was not very good to him.
Alright.
Sorry.
No worries, sir. Are there any kind of specific hardships that you and your family have gone through throughout the duration of Perry's childhood?
Yes, I've struggled myself, and I've taken those struggles out on Perry.
And did you notice any changes in his personality or his behavior throughout his childhood?
Yes, it changed for the worse after I have lost control of my feelings. I strongly regret doing that to him.
And just what specifically did you do to Perry?
I abused him, both mentally and physically.
Mentally and physically. Alright, so what would you say was out of the ordinary for him?
His actions changed a lot. He was just starting to hang out with the wrong people and wanting to do the wrong things.
Alright. And what kind of wrong things do you think he got into at a young age?
He began to steal.
Stealing.
um,
Did he steal because he didn't have anything at home, or did he steal because he wanted to take things from other people?
He stole because he did not have anything, which is something that is my responsibility.
Alright. How do you think your treatment towards Perry Smith affected his growth later on?
It affected it in a very negative way.
Yeah. How so? A little more specific for me, please.
It was negative in the way that he didn't have.
Objection. This is hearsay. They can't say what was going on through Perry's mind and why and all this and what's going through his mind due to the fact that you were not in his mind.
Alright, allow me to rephrase. What did you notice in terms physically changed about Perry's actions as he grew into teenage years? Adolescence.
That he began stealing his having good actions.
Counsel, can you get to the point, please?
Yeah. So, do you think that Perry Smith could have gone on as an adult to do bad things, given the way he was raised?
Yes, because the way he was raised was not the way that anyone should be raised.
No further questions.
I would like to start. Did you beat your wife and kids?
I definitely hate my kids.
Objection, foundation.
So why are you rephrase it? Yeah, but it's hard.
Objection, foundation.
Yeah, but honey, you have to have a reason for why you guys, and help your teammate out. Why are you guys asking these questions? Right? What is the purpose for asking these questions? What are you trying to prove?
To do with keeping contact with
tell the judges that. Or tell
It's to
them.
do with Didia.
And then they'll let them.
Did you have contact with your son while he was in prison?
I had sent letters, yes, when he was in prison.
As we had mentioned before, there were letters from Nevada and California. What were you doing in California?
I have no
relevance?
Well, what is the reason? You can, yes. No, before they sustain it, you have to give them a chance to ask, to explain. You can't just rule. They have to explain why they're asking that. Always remember your ultimate goal is,
Let me rephrase that. What emotional damage was in his life caused him to have these problems?
Growing up, he suffered from a lot of abuse from his father, more specifically, and what caused him down the path.
Would you say Perry's egotistical behavior contributes to his violent actions?
In my personal opinion, I would say in some occurrences that Perry has acted out, yes, but in some, no, because he could have been in a schizophrenic episode.
Mentioned earlier in this case by another doctor is that Perry has simple schizophrenia. Would you guys argue the point that he has more schizophrenia or simple schizophrenia?
don't get too.
I would argue
Objection,
that
hearsay?
That's your witness.
No.
That is your witness.
I would argue that he does have simple schizophrenia, but it can still happen on certain occasions, or he could have had something wrong with his PTSD from his father or any abuse that he had as a child.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Do you have any rebuttal? Okay, never mind. You're dismissed. The whole truth, the only truth, and nothing but the truth. That was wrong.
Hello. Mr. Hickock, I have learned that you were a very prosperous child, but ended up less prosperous as an adult. This is true?
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of events does your day-to-day life consist of?
I drink. I work at the shop. I go home and I watch football.
Yeah. And do you have any family at all?
I have a father, a mother, a wife, ex-wife, and 3 kids.
3 kids, yeah. That sounds like a lot of financial.
It is.
Yeah. So if you wake up, drink, and then go to work, how do you end up making enough money to support them?
My burdens ding me very much financially.
So you don't make enough money to
No.
support them? Okay. Understanding your past, I think it'd be reasonable to say that you would commit some crimes for the greater good of your family in terms of.
You have to ask us a question.
Oh, of course. Sorry. Would you commit crimes in order to support your family?
Objection. On leading, yes or no questions? Multiple in a row, might I add?
Okay. The defense can you explain the reason?
What's your purpose for these questions?
We're trying to find a foundation for what might motivate him to murder the house. Go on.
If it means for the moral good of supporting my family, then yes.
But you would, of course, never harm anyone.
No.
In any way.
No. I may steal, but I have limits.
That makes sense. Sorry. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here. At any point during your planning for this burglary, did you have any intention of touching any kind of murder weapon?
No.
Not at all.
No.
All right. Did your plan consist of harming any member of the Cleary family? No.
I wanted to get in and get out. No one get hurt.
What did you plan to do with the valuables as your plan finished?
As in money? Or? Right. I wanted the money to keep myself afloat, make sure ex-wife got what she needed, and just want to not drown in a sea of debt.
Understood. So to recap everything we talked about, you live in financial ruin. You're losing money day by day. You have no external sources of income. Gambling and drinking rule your life, and you would never ever plan to harm anyone and never have.
Oh, object. No, don't object to that, but write that freaking down. Word for word. He just said he would never ever hurt anyone. Write it down. Somebody has to be listening to what he's saying, because he is BSing his way on this stand.
But yeah, so you never planned to hurt anyone, and you said that you would never hurt anyone for your own good, true?
Yes, sir. I'm
Little
quite infuriated.
That makes sense. No worries. But you only.
I got dinged up when I was 20 in an automobile accident. My head got dinged up pretty bad, and ever since then I've been able to hear straight.
Yeah. No, okay. My sympathies are with you, Mr. Hickock.
Please get to the point.
Of course. So you said you'd never harm anyone for your own gain, and you only took the money for your family, correct? And you did not harm anyone in the process. No further questions.
Prosecutors have a chance to cross-examine the witnesses.
Would you say that your family was well liked and respected?
I said we were as liked as anyone else.
Then why did your life go so downhill after having such a life?
Objection and ask my answer.
Speculation.
And speculation.
Okay. You had just stated to defense that you would never hurt anyone, and you said you had limits. You murdered. Where do your limits end?
I didn't murder anyone. What was that?
No further questions.
You're dismissed.
We would
Shit, my chair.
pull up Mr. Perry Smith.
I swear. You can proceed.
What happened during your childhood? I endured a lot of abuse from my father. Most of my family died due to suicides, including my brother and sister, who I was very close with, and then my other sister, Amanda. Objection. Those suicides were actually after the murder, not before. It was irrelevant.
No, overruled.
No.
They were not after the murder.
They were following the death of his mother, sorry.
I'll be switching out.
Good afternoon. So you have had many psychological evaluations by trusted professionals, correct?
Yes.
And they have all stated that you suffer from some form of schizophrenia.
Yes.
Right? Have you ever had any outbursts of anger in your life, or bouts of anger?
Yes.
Is there anything that normally causes them?
There are certain triggers, including different triggers, including talking about my family and my past, including the orphanage
The orphanage.
with the nuns.
The nuns. What did the nuns do?
The nuns would consistently beat me or wetting the bed.
I was thinking to not mess it up as a state bomb.
State bomb?
Yeah, good to I get angry.
You were thinking about staying calm, but you did not stay calm, did you?
I got this one.
What resulted in the robbery when you were not able to stay calm?
I was like that, episode, kind of went through a fury of rage, and then it was all blurred.
All clear.
Yeah.
So you didn't have any control over him, physically or mentally?
Yeah, you can take control.
All right. So you suffered from trauma, schizophrenia, and bouts of anger, and you did not have any control over anything in your life at the point of the robbery, correct? No further questions.
I have some questions for you today, and I hope they aren't too difficult. First of all, I just want to ask you, you previously mentioned that you get aggressive. Have you found yourself in many fights?
A few.
Like the one with your father?
Objection leading?
Overruled. He's allowed to.
Repeat the question, please.
Like the fight you had with your father?
Yeah, that's it.
What would you say causes your aggression?
My aggression is caused from my past and my trauma.
Okay, well, what are your thoughts on those who are above you, or maybe seen as better or higher class?
Objection relevant?
The Clare family was a very wealthy family, or farmers, they're wealthy farmers, and I'm trying to prove that it's his aggression that caused murders, or his feelings towards the murders. What was your goal in going to the Clare's house?
To steal.
To steal? And how long had you known about this plan?
About a day.
So you knew you were going to murder Clare?
No. There was no murder.
Objection. Harry never planned to murder anyone.
What? Am I doing this question? I didn't know.
What is it? Yep. Yeah, that's right.
It is a summary of Richard's crime history and his different prison and the reasons why he was in different prisons and just his record.
And the defense has a copy of it.
Sure.
Could the jury see the?
Yeah, you were allowed to.
Are we allowed to ask what the purpose of them is?
This, I'm sorry, this is really
It's okay,
this
no.
is where I mentioned that. Okay.
No, not yet.
On this document, it shows the different records, or different crime records of Richard Hickock, and that he's a repeated offender.
Do you have anything else to enter into evidence?
With this, I am looking to prove that there's multiple accounts in which he was a repeated offender of burglary, and grand larceny, as well as cheat and fraud. So what is to say that it is proven he is an offender of many different accounts multiple times? What is to say that he won't go out and do this again if given the chance?
Yes. Yes.
Although may I add just more of my mind? Although there wasn't offenses of assault or aggression in these specific documents, these are also from earlier on in his life, where he was still just starting out with his life of crime he decided to pursue. So yes, it might be like that now, But if given the chance, if he thinks he can get away with this murder, this also will then boost his ego, and he will go on to continuously have assaults and do aggressive crimes against other individuals.
I don't know how they're going to disprove his criminal record when it's recorded by the government. There's no way you can disprove that.
So, how do you feel about your confidence going into your closing argument tomorrow?
I believe me and my team have worked hard to get to where we are, and we have put our all into this case this past while. Eat, sleep, breathe.
How do you think defense will respond to your closing argument?
They won't know how.
We, the defense, state that we are well aware that Perry Smith and Richard Hickock did commit these murders, but during the case, we were trying to prove that the psychological aspects and history behind their motives, which would be beneficial to the studies and rehabilitation to further provide these individuals with a sentence not ending with a death penalty.
Some of the prosecution's evidence from yesterday, they stated that Richard Hickock had been in and out of jail at an earlier time during his life, but with the documents that was presented to the judges, all the dates were up to date right before the murder. The prosecution had admitted that Richard Hickock had no assault and battery charges, but his petty thefts such as robberies could have led to something more, giving no supporting evidence and only basing it off speculation. Not only did the prosecution have invalid evidence, they also gave no supporting evidence as to the relevance of their witness, Nancy Ewald. Nancy Ewald had also admitted under oath that someone would have been bonkers and not fully there to commit these heinous acts. The prosecution had also objection of hearsay upon the calling of Barbara Johnson, Perry's sister, to which we proved through cross-examination that Barbara had not been in contact with Perry Smith and therefore could have not known his mental state, even being in contact with her father, Tex John Smith, as he was not in contact with him personally, but only through letters during Mr. Smith's conflicted times. They had also not properly stated Dr. Mitchell Jones' credentials, stating that he was never an expert and therefore could not give valid professional opinions on the state of Richard and Perry, and also had not provided any proof that he just has simple schizophrenia other than the invalid opinion he swore to oath on. One more thing about their witness, Nancy Ewald, was that she outlined that the crimes were a traumatic event, showcasing that the town was affected as well. Case in point, that as a town, we need Perry Smith to stay alive to prevent another mass trauma commencing.
Upon the evidence based on Hickock's crimes, never were there any charges of assault nor bodily harm to another human being shown. Hickock presents no intention of harming another human, and he is none other than a petty criminal, undeserving of death row, and what becomes the cost of life if very sleazy, the cost of the life of this very sleazy, thefting criminal, and instead of being put to death, given another chance. Hickock grew up in a loving family house, provided as much as possible, facing their own financial hardship. Regardless, Hickock has a present support system within his own life. Hickock had the shaping of a relatively normal life up until a car accident which took a turn for the worse. And then we saw his personality shift. Hickock, still trying to find financial gain, attempts to hold down several jobs, but is often turned away due to his ghoulish appearance. Point being, Hickock made attempts to be a functioning member of society, but incapable of the overwhelming challenges, and he went down the wrong path. Whilst Hickock has been shown in and out of the legal system, never once has it shown Hickock in any sort of rehabilitation center. Obviously, never being shown there is another way to life he was bound to, and then to fall back into criminal tendencies. Dr. Sadden concluded that in his evaluation following Richard Hickock, the murderous crime solely motivated by Perry Smith, indicating Hickock had no intention of the murders. It is believed that Hickock has a support system present, rehabilitation would shine a new light in his life again, as he may work towards being a functioning member within society one more time.
I'm just going to
talk a little bit about Perry Smith. Perry Smith's father, Hickock John Smith, was abusive during Smith's childhood years towards him, his mother, and his 3 siblings. His dad had been absent during the later years of his childhood due to his mother running away from him and taking the 4 kids they had shared. The trauma had not stopped there, unfortunately. Perry's mother was a drunk and had later committed suicide by choking on her own vomit, and his 2 other siblings, James Smith, had drove his own wife to kill herself and later committed suicide. His sister, Joyce Smith, had jumped out of a hotel window in San Francisco. Barbara Smith, known now as Barbara Johnson, had been the only one left with Perry Smith, as they were placed in the St. Catholic Orphanage, which was run by nuns. This is where Perry had been abused for chronic bedwetting. Bedwetting by the National Institutes of Health had been deemed as a common childhood disorder and is of higher risk in boys than in girls. The cause of bedwetting is as stated in the article before you. Unfortunately, we couldn't get prints off of this. Is made up of multifactorial involving genetic, neurobiological, and psychological factors and environmental factors and stressors that may have happened during early childhood years. And this would play a very important role.
The impact of severe trauma has deeply negative impacts on one's brain and can cause behavioral issues. Perry has a short fuse and spouts of anger at times. John McCrell, also known as Willie J., has been Perry's only friend in prison and had mentioned Perry's only downfall was his anger, as outlined in his farewell letter to Perry. His anger caused him to act out on his father, which he had gone into a physical altercation with and tried to strangle him. But this was only due to the fact his father had threatened him, thus we see Perry's anger side. We would like to present evidence from Dr. Joseph Sadden's evaluation. His evaluation conducted that Perry's present personality structure was that of a paranoid schizophrenic reaction and therefore represented an ever-present, poorly controlled rage and disregard of reality. With what we have provided for this case, we would like to reinstate that we acknowledge the fact these men have committed heinous crimes, but we would like to flip the fact of a negative experience and show how we can benefit from it. We state that we ask these men do not get charged with the death penalty. Perry Smith should be sent to a psychiatric ward without chance of getting out so he can be further studied and it can be determined the causes of his motivations for this crime and prevent reoccurring such in other psychological patients. For Richard Hickock, we ask that he serve jail time for premeditated robbery, but also be sent to a rehabilitation center to be given a chance to reintegrate into society.
Throughout this trial as the prosecution, we've proved that both Richard and Perry know right from wrong and deserve the death penalty. Perry was not in a trance, and neither of them had limits, as Perry murdered 4 people that tragic night, and Richard did nothing to try to stop him. The motivation behind these murders was the jealousy of the American dream. Smith and Hickock wanted to live a financially stress-free life, much like the Clutter family. Their method to get that dream was to commit crimes and grand larceny.
Richard Hickock and Perry Smith are repeat offenders, which is proof that if given anything but death, they have a guaranteed chance to repeat these heinous crimes. If the jury decides to keep these 2 men alive, their violent tendencies and dangerous desires are only further enabled. Perry has previously escaped jail. Obviously, he has the capacity to do it again. What is the point in giving Perry Smith life in prison if he is bound to escape and repeat his offenses? If these 2 individuals aren't put to a stop for good, this instills fear into not only friends and family of the Cullers, but the community in which surrounds them. Living in fear that not only may they be at risk of becoming the next victims of these menaces in the safety of their own homes, but also the others may look at this trial and see that these individuals were sentenced with and take this opportunity to better this plan and possibly get away with it. By not giving these criminals the sentence they truly desire, it will show the entire country of America the flaws of the legal system as well as the lack of sympathy and justice towards citizens.
Perry Smith was diagnosed by Dr. Mitchell Jones with simple schizophrenia. This illness entails the lack of motivation and initiative with the absence of hallucinations or delusional spells. As we know, Richard and Perry's actions on the night of the murder were premeditated. Therefore, no mental illnesses had any influence on Perry or Richard's motives for this felony. The Clutters were murdered with no reason other than they were wealthy and were given no warning that their final days were soon approaching, living their lives as if they had years to come. Richard and Perry, although don't deserve the respect to know their final days are approaching, they at least will be given a warning. And their deaths have reason. They took away 4 innocent lives. If you could go to the next slide.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
No.
God's a bit dense.
Now here's them now, only 2 remaining, scared to death that they may be next, and left without their support systems. There was no mercy shown on the night of the murder, so why do these delinquents deserve any mercy now? Life in prison is not nearly enough to reconcile the lives that were lost that day. Thank you.
And they actually brought up the fact that the prosecution's doctor didn't have any credentials.
Yeah,
so
they
his
brought
point
up-
was like weak.
And also, too, the prosecution's witnesses were infallible.
Yeah.
He hasn't been violent in his records up until the murder. And defense brought out the fact that, like, their record of him was incomplete.
Yeah.
And they brought up the complete. I feel like the fact that, like, Dick has a support system and he could be rehabilitated and it doesn't have any record of actual violence. That pretty much. And he didn't, and they both of the murderers admitted that Harry was the only one who killed
And they did
people.
say also-
And he's gonna go to a mental institution
They
and he
also
can't get out.
They did say that Dick was gonna have jail time and then he's
Yeah,
gonna be sent.
Yeah.
Which is more fair because if he didn't kill anyone, what's the point of killing him?
Yeah. He'd probably go to jail time for his breaking
That
up
is.
parole.
And
Just pettiness
for-
and then.
And for the planning of the robberies.
Yeah, the premeditation.
And the defense, or no, the prosecution brought up how there was no mental illnesses going into the planning.
They
which
kept
is
trying to use Dr. Jones' diagnosis.
Yeah, but he's invalid.
But
He
he's
has-
invalid.
What I got is just that he felt like the jealousy from
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, which
feel
caused it outburst.
like
He
yeah.
was so jealous of the girls that they had.
We all unanimously vote on defense.
Yeah, I agree. Now we.
All
Every seated.
All be
Please
seated.
be seated, whatever you say.
All be seated.
Oh, we're not.
First.
Thank you all for your mandatory effort for the state of Canada.
We believe the prosecution had plenty of evidence you could have presented, but did not utilize it in a proficient manner. We do not appreciate the disrespect to the honorable judge table at times throughout the trial. Your closing statement was strong and based around guilt towards the Clutter family, which was a very, very fair and relevant point of view.
They're allowed to say this because this is their opinion.
Defense, you had very insightful questions towards the witnesses, but struggled getting to the point of why you're asking them. We appreciate the respect coming from your attorneys toward our group. You did have one attorney that tended to seek out information about what was going on in the cases. Your closing statement was also very strong and touched on well thought out and valid points.
We do believe that each side would have made better points if witnesses had utilized time, materials, and support provided from each side. We understand it was a stressful task for everybody, and we appreciate the hard work.
Sorry,
I know CPR.
You
need water.
Okay,
Sit.
the most important part. In our professional opinion, we believe that the prosecution had the upper hand.
I've never heard a judge do that, but that's okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm just my goal is right showing. Okay. Okay. While the defense had extremely strong points, they were focused too much on the mental health side and the bad thing.
The what?
Bad thing.
Oh, bad. Okay.
Yeah.
God stuff.
Because it is also, we don't have the technology or willingness to do the research we're asking for. That's all.
Yes.
Two.
Yes.
ask for the verdict?
Okay.
No, you'd like to bring you up the verdict.
Can you bring us the verdict?
Roll cover, please.
You guys,
What is yes or no?
whether or not they're in favor of what they decided.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you get to read. Shh.
Are not guilty.
They are guilty.
Are guilty.
They are guilty.
Yes.
And the sentence is not the death penalty, it is rehabilitation.
With mental.
Now, here's the evidence, okay? Here's the evidence. No,
Oh, damn.
that's fair.
I think this is bogus.
I thought this one was on.